Hello, everyone. Stormer One here. Today we'll be having an update on the strong severe storm potential that's going to be going on today, tomorrow, and even possibly for Oaks Day as well. We'll also have an update on Derby Day as well, how the weather models think of what could happen for Derby Day as well. So we're going to get started to watch warning advisory display across the country. Most of the country is pretty quiet. The only exception is down towards portions of the Southern Plains, more particularly parts of Oklahoma, northern Texas, western Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, and a couple of counties in Kansas and Louisiana where we are dealing with some flooding and also some severe weather that is ongoing down there as well. And that same storm system down there is going to be up here in Kentucky tomorrow. Here's a look at the current temperatures across the state here. Really spot out the front. You got cooler temperatures north of 64, and really our warm front is kind of draped just south of I-64. Kind of roughly in here is kind of where our warm front is right now. Area south of the warm front that's getting pretty humid out there. If we look at dew points, you can see dew points are getting in the upper 60s in some locations, and even a couple locations it's 70 degrees for a dew point, so it's getting pretty humid out there as well. And as we look at satellite imagery here, you can also clearly see where your warm front is. Warm front is generally draped off across here, and this warm front is going to slowly move to the north as the day goes on. We also got we've got a nice cumulus field across south central and southeastern Kentucky. We are starting to see some showers and thunderstorms develop down there. And now those storms we're not really concerned with in terms of potential for severe weather. I'll definitely be watching storms up towards Illinois and southern Indiana, where there could be a better chance for some severe weather up there. But before we get that, I want to look into storm reports from yesterday. And here you go, across the country here. Definitely a lot of wind with these storms here. Across the country as a whole, we had 300 wind damage reports, 45 hail reports, 4 tornado reports. Locally in Kentucky, you can see here most of our severe weather reports have been in central and eastern Kentucky. We had a couple of large hail reports that came out of, I believe, close to Midway and Woodford County. We had a couple of storms up there that produced some large hail, and then it eventually turned into a pretty decent broken line of storms that brought in some damaged winds out there as well late afternoon into the evening hours. But nothing that wasn't really significant. That we did confirm that there was a microburst that occurred down in Campbellsville, which create power outages, trees down there. So, but no injuries to report, which is the good news. And a look at today's severe weather outlook. We got two distinct areas of potential severe weather. One area is down in portions of Texas, in the Arlatex region, and that's where we actually got severe weather ongoing. It's the time of making this video. You got an enhanced risk for severe weather down there. And there's a secondary area up towards portions of the St. Louis area, stretching through south central Illinois into southwest central Indiana, where we got a slight risk that is up there. Here's a look at your tornado probabilities out there. There is a 10% hatched area down towards Texas. Could be a strong tornado. Damage, winds, and large hail are possible. But here's a closer view here of the severe weather risk here. Locally in Kentucky, we got a marginal risk that's out across parts of central and northern Kentucky, and even down along the Ohio River into western Kentucky. It does include places like Paducah, Owensboro, Louisville, Lexington, Richmond, even up in the Cincinnati area. It also includes Moorhead, and even gets down as far south as Mount Vernon and Stanford. And there's your slight risk out there. And the slight risk does not include anywhere in Kentucky, but in that slight risk area is where we may have the potential to see a couple of tornadoes. And there is a 5% tornado risk on the outlook, as you can see here. Locally in Kentucky, there is a 2% tornado risk, generally along the Ohio River. Tornado risk is very low out there. It's kind of more of a conditional threat for us compared to up there because of the lack of lift that we may have. And let's go and talk a little more about that. But let's check out reflectivity from the HRRR model here. It's not really picking up the activity too well what's going on in south central southeastern Kentucky, which sometimes this model does have trouble initiating thunderstorms. But I can narrow out a couple of rogue strong storms down there. But you can see where we got the slight risk. You got a better coverage of some strong severe storms and even some storms that take more of a supercellular look up there, especially in southern Indiana, as those storms kind of follow up along the warm front. And it's only really a couple hour window here where you will have the potential for severe weather, because really towards late evening the severe weather threat's pretty much over by that point when we start to lose instability up there, and even some wind energy does calm down as well. Which, talking about that wind energy, you can see the better wind energy in the lift, where it's going to be stronger, is going to be more focused in southern Illinois and southern Indiana, where you got winds that go anywhere from around 40 to 45 knots generally, which is enough to support some storms. Now, if we kind of go towards the late afternoon, kind of back this up a little bit, we do have a little bit of wind energy to work with in Kentucky, but I still think the threat stays more conditional. If we do see, and this is a big if we do see an organized supercell that develops somewhere in here, kind of right in here, then it may have potential to produce all modes of severe weather, damage winds, large hail. A quick spin-up tornado cannot be ruled out. Low shear seems pretty favorable for possibly a quick spin-up tornado out there. But then again, better odds are going to be in south central Illinois into southern Indiana out there. And if we were to check out the supercell composite parameters, and this is from the HIRES now, you can see where the higher probabilities are on this model here, but you can see some decent numbers even getting down towards parts of central Kentucky here. So then again, threats a little more conditional out here, but I'll still keep an eye on that area just in case if we do see a supercell or two out there. I don't think there's going to be, but sometimes you never know. But you can obviously see here the higher numbers are off to our west and northwest out there, and that's where we're going to see the more favorable environment for supercells out there. And you can see here as you get into the evening how those numbers really tank as we start to lose that instability here. And I'll kind of go back here a little bit and kind of give you guys a sounding here, and let's go near Evansville, Indiana for a sounding here. And you can see here what we're talking about, low level shear. It's right here in this red circle here where you got winds at the surface. Now the winds at the surface are not going to be that strong, but if you go a little bit farther up aloft, you can see where we start to get into a little bit stronger winds, especially up towards 700 and 500 millibars. But most importantly, look at where the wind bars are going. Wind bars to the surface are out of the southeast, and just maybe a few hundred feet above your head, or maybe up to about 1,000 feet, turn south. And then when you get up towards 850 millibars, winds are now out of the southwest. With that type of environment, that can support an isolated tornado. And other things we look at for the potential for tornadoes is the hodograph. And you can see here where you got this little curve right here. And that can be favorable for supercell like structures. And then we look at 3 Cape. Ideally, 3 Cape above 100 would be favorable. 132 would be good enough. And then you got some wind shear parameters or wind shear numbers out there too. Storm rate to felicity is generally anywhere from about 100 to maybe close to 200 out there. So overall, most of your greens are there for the possibility of a tornado with at least one of these supercells out there. And if I get a sounding that is out towards, let's go to Lawrenceburg here, or in Anderson County. And you can see here, wind shear parameters are not as strong here, but chance is still there for a quick spin up tornado if you do get an organized supercell. And then again, that's a big if. But you got a holdgraph that can support many supercell structures. Wind shear in the lower levels not as impressive down there, but if you look in those wind bars in the lower levels, you can see here you do have wind change direction with height, which is key for tornado genesis there. And also, by the way, 3 Cape is actually higher down here. 3 Cape is above 200, so that's a pretty high number for 3 Cape down there. So most of your ingredients are there, just about. And it's kind of a marginal environment, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's a pretty marginal environment out there. But then again, it's pretty much of a conditional threat. I wouldn't be too concerned about it at all. And here's my threat table here. So this is for the strong severe storm potential today. It's going to be more focused over the Bluegrass region and even counties up along the Ohio River from Cincinnati down to Paducah. And you can see here the main hazards would be damaging winds and large hail. Winds that could be up to 60 miles an hour, even some quarter-size hail. And then you can see the tornado risk is very low. A quick spin of tornado could be possible out there, but then again, I'm not too concerned about that. But the threat should diminish after the evening here later tonight. So let's move on to tomorrow here. Tomorrow's risk here. So we'll go back here to the SPC outlook here. So this is the outlook for tomorrow, and we actually got a slight risk that's posted for pretty much the entire state out there. The main hazard is going to be damage winds. The tornado risk, there is a low end 2% tornado risk. I think you can argue that a decent chunk of Kentucky can be in this 2% tornado risk, but I think either way, tornado probabilities, I think, should stay pretty low for tomorrow. So, but the main concern for tomorrow is going to be damage wind. So let's go a little bit deeper into this, and we're going to use the HiRISC NAM here. And you can see here, as we get towards the early afternoon, we may start to see some thunderstorms start to initiate in western Kentucky. But over time, those thunderstorms may congeal into a line or a broken line of storms later tomorrow afternoon. And that's when those storms start to get going. And that's where you're going to start to see your damage and wind risk start to become elevated here. Now, this model here doesn't show much development out ahead of it. I think there are going to be some storms out ahead of this main line, and there might be little thunderstorm segments out ahead of it as well. It's going to be more of a linear event than a supercellular type of event, which is why the tornado risk is so low, and also the reason why the damage and wind risk will dominate for tomorrow here. And you can see that line there push across central Kentucky and even push into eastern Kentucky by Thursday evening out there. I do think this model here is a little bit underdone with the coverage. It's primarily out ahead of it, and I think we can get some scattered thunderstorms to develop out ahead of it, and even those could be stronger, locally severe. And there's actually going to be more wind energy to work with tomorrow. This is your 500 millibar winds, and if you want to compare to yesterday's winds were, I think, if I remember correctly, it's like 30 to 40 knots. Yesterday, but it is just enough to support some strong severe storms, which is what we saw. Tomorrow, you got winds that may be approaching possibly 50 to 55 knots. So winds will be stronger tomorrow in those upper levels, which will help keep these storms a little more sustained, rather than be pulsing up and then collapsing on themselves here. So this will lead to higher wind shear parameters. Wind shear parameters will be a little bit better tomorrow. This is your 850 millibar winds, and a little bit earlier in the day you may have a pretty decent southwesterly wind at 850 millibars, so you got a pretty decent amount of wind energy to work with. Though some of those numbers may try to back off towards late Thursday afternoon to the early evening. But here's what's also interesting about this. You see these stronger winds here coming basically almost due west right here. Those are thunderstorms right there. And what that kind of suggests is possibly where you may have some sections of the line where it may have a little bit of what's known as a rear inflow jet. So that could be a pretty decent indication for some of those stronger winds with certain sections of the line of storms out there. And you can see here winds that are generally anywhere from 50 to maybe close to 60 knots. So these line of thunderstorms may have a decent amount of wind with them out there. So the damage wind risk once again is going to dominate. And you can see here even potential for higher winds at 850 millibars pushing behind these thunderstorms up towards Ohio up there, at least indicated by this model here. So we'll have wind shear and some wind energy to work with. What about the dew points? And I think no one's not surprised here, but we will have dew points deep in the 60s here. But you will notice here those surface winds are generally out of the southwest, which is the main reason why the tornado risk is so low for tomorrow, is because the winds from the surface all the way up in the atmosphere are going at the same direction. That's non-directional shear out there, which is not really ideal for tornadoes. Sometimes you can get little mesoscale features along that line, especially if you get storm mergers out there that can create some wind shear in a localized environment. But that's like a coin flip of that happening. Certain things that's got to happen to get that. But regardless, though, damage wind threats can be the dominant threat for tomorrow. And you can actually see those thunderstorms out there really nuking those dew point values. You go from dew points out ahead of the line in the mid 60s and then go behind that line, dew points then drop in the mid 50s. That's an indication of a cold pull effect. You get cold pulling of those storms, which can actually kind of help to enhance those storms a little bit more. That line of storms can act as a cold front when we get cold pulling like this here. So for tomorrow, could be a pretty decent line coming through from west to east here across most of Kentucky. And there can also be, once again, some storms that develop out ahead of the line that may also have the risk of bringing some strong to damage winds. And here's your threat table here. Damage winds dominates. That's a medium risk. Winds could be up to 70 miles an hour. There could be some pretty good winds with some of those Boeing segments of the line. Large hail could be possible, but that's going to be more in the way of those storms that develop out ahead of the line out there. But hail that could be up the size of quarters. Very low tornado risk. Quick spin up could be possible, but then again, risk very low. And then the flood risk could be some local high water issues if you do get training of storms out there. And that's a big if too. But I'm not concerned about flooding for tomorrow. So then let's kind of check out the European model here. So this is for Oakstay here. And what's kind of interesting for Oakstay here is that temperatures have trended warmer. A little bit warmer for Oakstay. If you remember from my last video, I think we talked about temperatures that could be, I think, upper 60s to low 70s because that cold front passes through. Temperatures are trending warmer. Now we're looking at temperatures that may be in the mid to upper 70s here, which means there probably be a better chance for storms on Oakstay for Friday here because the modeling has really trended slower with the progression of these systems here, which is a trend we did not want to see here, especially for Derby Day. So for the European model, it does show some scattered showers and thunderstorms out there, and it will be milder. Temperatures that will be mid to upper 70s can roll out. Some temperatures may begin near 80 degrees here, but if I go back to the high-res NAM here to give you guys a better picture here, you can kind of see here those scattered showers and thunderstorms out there. It's even trying to show another line of storms late Friday afternoon. We'll see about that, but if more instability is realized out there, then there could be another risk for some stronger storms for Friday. I'll have a deeper look into Friday, maybe tonight or tomorrow, with Friday's strong storm potential. But either way, some scattered showers and thunderstorms looks to be out there for Oaks Day, and temperatures will be on the milder side, mid to upper 70s out there for Oaks Day. But what about Derby Day, the most important day out there? And you can see here, models do show a low pressure system developing kind of along that boundary here. And this is getting to Derby Day. This is the afternoon. You can see here it's got a pretty good coverage of showers out there. But you can see it's not all day stuff. It's generally scattered in nature. So you're going to have hit or miss showers possibly throughout most of the day on Derby Day. But what does the American model say? Well, here's Oaks Day. It also shows that it covers some showers and thunderstorms for Oaks Day. Beginning to Derby Day here, you can see here right around that same time, it's quicker with that system, which means some of that rain may get out of here earlier in the day here. So in terms of rain chances for Derby Day, I would say there's probably a 60% chance of showers for Derby Day here. I think most of that rain is going to be earlier in the day. There is that window that we may clear up late in the day, but that window's starting to get a little bit smaller at the moment here. But there are still time for some changes out there. And also in terms of temperatures will generally be in the 60s, mid to upper 60s for Derby Day. So the temperature side of things really hasn't changed. What's changed over the last few days has been the rain chance. And unfortunately, Derby Day seems to be the most difficult day of forecasting the weather this whole week, which is quite unfortunate because Derby Day is the biggest day of the year for the state. But we'll have more updates on this as we get closer to Derby Day. But right now, Derby Day looking to be a little bit more wetter, at least as it stands. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys get any questions, put a comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.